Vasudeva Jai, Samveda Bhakta, Vrindi Jai, Gaur Premananda Hari Hari. All glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Any specific verse that you're reading here? Or no? No? All right, so we'll go ahead. Here we go. We're going to start reading about Hiranyakashipu, who's known as the king of the demons. So we're going to read from the Chapter 2 of the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, text 1. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, I'll just read the Sanskrit since you don't have it right now. So, Shinardavacha Vrataryevam Vinihotve Harina Kroda Murtina Hiranyakashipu Rajan Apariyatapyadusha Shucha. So you can repeat. Shinardavacha. Sri Narada Muni said. Abratari. When the brother Hiranyaksha. Evam. Thus. Vinihate. Was killed. Purinha. By Hari. Akroda Murtina. In the form of the boar Varaha. Hiranyakashipu. Rajan. O king. Pariyatapyat. Was afflicted. Rusha. By anger. Shucha. By grief. So translation. Sri Narada Muni said, my dear King Yudhisthira, when Lord Vishnu in the form of Varaha, the boar, killed Hiranyaksha's brother Hiranyakashipu was extremely angry and began to lament. So, purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai. Yudhisthira had inquired from Narada Muni why Hiranyakashipu was so envious of his own son, Prahlad. Narada Muni began narrating the story by explaining how Hiranyakashipu had become a staunch enemy of Lord Vishnu. Actually, it's a short purport, so we'll just read the next text for this purport. Ahachedam Rusha Purna Sandashta Dasharachataha Kopoljvolabhyam Chakshurvyam Irikshandhum Ramambaram. Filled with rage and biting his lips, Hiranyakashipu gazed at the sky with eyes that blazed in anger, making the whole sky smoky. Thus he began to speak. Purport, as usual, the demon is envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and inimical toward him. These were Hiranyakashipu's external bodily features as he considered how to kill Lord Vishnu and devastate his kingdom by Kuntaloka. Text 3. Karaladam strogra drischa dushpreksha rukuti mukaha shulam udyamya sarashi Nanavan Damabravit. Exhibiting his terrible teeth, fierce glance, and frowning eyebrows, terrible to see, he took up his weapon, a trident, and thus began speaking to his associates, the assembled demons. Bo, bo, Danava Daitya, Dvi Mordams Triyaksha Shambara, Shatabaho Hayagriva, Namuche Paka Ilvala, Viprachitte Mamavacha, Pulo Man, Shakuna Dayaha, Vinutanantaram Sarve, Priyatam Ashu Machiram. Oh, Danavas and Deutsches, oh, Dvi Moda, Triyaksha, Shambara, and Shatobahu. Okay. Oh, Hayagriva, Namuchi, Paka, and Ilvala. Oh, Virpachiti, Puloman, Shakuna, and other demons. All of you kindly hear me attentively and then act according to my words without delay. And so finally, text 6, which has a sizable purport. Sapatnair kat ditak shudrayar, raptara meda yata surit, parshni grahina harina, samekna yupa davanahai. My insignificant enemies, the demigods, have combined to kill my very dear and obedient well-wisher, my brother Horanyaksha. Although the Supreme Lord Vishnu is always equal to both of us, namely the demigods and the demons, this time being devoutly worshipped by the demigods, he has taken their side and helped them kill Horanyaksha. So, purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 9:29, Samoham Sarva Bhuteshu. The Lord is equal to all living entities. Since the demigods and demons are both living entities, how is it possible that the Lord was partial to one class of living beings and opposed to another? Actually, it is not possible for the Lord to be partial. Nonetheless, since the demigods, the devotees, who always strictly follow the Supreme Lord's orders because of sincerity, they are victorious over the demons who know that the Supreme Lord is Vishnu but do not follow his instructions. Because of constantly remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, the demons generally attain Sayuja Mukti after death. The demon Hiranyakashipu accused the Lord of being partial because the demigods worshipped him, but in fact the Lord, like the government, is not partial at all. The government is not partial to any citizen. Of course, that's an ideal government, not the present government. But if a citizen is law-abiding, he receives abundant opportunities from the state laws to live peacefully and fulfill his real interests. Okay? So, Om Gana Timiranda Shakanan Shana Shlakaya Chakshur Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha. So, this chapter starts out, actually the first chapter here starts out with the question about the Lord's partiality. Keshav, you understand what partiality means?
Yes.
What does it mean?
When you favor someone more than somebody else.
Okay, good. So the question is, why does God favor demigods? And why does God, well, I'm going to answer the question. And why does God disfavor the demons, or those who don't worship him? And it's a very interesting question. That's basically this whole chapter, this whole canto deals with this particular. Of course, there's other instructions. You know, the instructions of Prahlad Maharaj in here, instructions on how to be a civilized human being, etc., etc. But it all starts with this question. Now let's examine why the Lord is impartial. And of course, Prabhupada in the purport quotes this verse from the Gita, Samoham Sarvabhuteshu Name Dveshosti Na Priha. Krishna says, I'm equal to everyone, and I have no friends and no enemies. Of course, in the spiritual world, Krishna has his friends, but Krishna is referring to his interactions in this world. Just like all of us have people who are friends and enemies, right? Mm-hmm. Like at school, you have people who like you,
Yes.
and then you have people you think of, they're my enemies.
Yes.
And you kill them. No, you avoid them. Now, don't kill your enemies. So, the reason that one has friends and enemies is because the friends satisfy your desires or needs, and your enemies sort of impede or stop your satisfying your desires or needs. I mean, that's the difference. Or they just hate you. And hating you means you have a desire for people like you, and they're not satisfying that particular desire. So we need friends just in order to exist. Right? Your parents are your friends, right?
No, they're my parents.
No, but they're, in one sense, they're your friends because they're concerned and they're favorable towards you, right? No? No, they're not favorable. Your mother cooks for you, your father feeds you the food after your mother cooks, right? So,
Feed myself.
so you need other people. What would happen if your father refused to do anything for you? Even provide you a place to live?
I'd be dead.
Yeah, so you need your father, right?
Yes.
And you need your mother.
Yes.
So you should thank them. So the point I'm making is, let's contrast that with Krishna. Does Krishna need his father or mother?
No.
Why?
Because he can do whatever he wants.
That's right. He's aptakama. He can have whatever he wants and do whatever he wants. And he's swarat. Those are the two words utilized actually in the first canto in relationship to Krishna. Swarat means he's completely independent. And he's aptakama. Anything he wants, he gets what? Immediately. Because all of his energies are first-class servants. Parasya Shakti Vividaya Vishuyate Svabhavki Jnana Bala Kriya Cha. In other words, they know what he wants before he asks for it. You know what a first-class servant is?
Someone who brings something that you need to offer.
Yeah, someone who brings something you want before you ask for it. It's very hard to have a first-class servant. My only first-class servants are my 2 arms and 2 legs. I don't have to say, please bring me this hand. Okay, thank you. That's a second-class servant who you have to ask. And he likes to do that service. Both the first and second-class servants, they like to do their service. But a third-class servant, he does what you ask, but he's really angry. Why is he asking me to do this? Why is he asking me to do that? Isn't it? That's a third class. And a 10th class servant does what?
Doesn't bring you.
Doesn't do anything for the master. He just says, do it yourself. Sometimes you see that in the temples, that you ask a brahmachari to do something. Of course, he won't just say, do it yourself, but he'll go and find another brahmachari because he's so lazy, he doesn't want to do it himself. And he'll get someone else to do it. So that's like somewhere in between 3rd and 10th class. So it's Krishna's energies. Like Krishna has 3 types of energies. Vishnu Shakti Para, Prakta Chetragyakita Para, Avidyakamra Sanganya Tritir Shakti Ishate. 3 energies are the material energy, spiritual energy, and what? He doesn't know. Jiva souls. The individual jiva souls. So, of course, the pure jiva souls, they do whatever Krishna wants when he wants. And the material energy, even Maya, name for Maya or Durga is Vaishnavi. She does whatever Krishna wants whenever he wants. And what to speak of the Adi Shakti of the Lord. Who is the Adi Shakti of the Lord? Anyone know? Any of the children know? The original potency or energy of God? Who's Adi Shakti? Radharani. Oh my God. Maybe you're all Christians and stuff. Anyway, so Adi Shakti, that's Radharani. Remember that name, Adi Shakti. That means the original Shakti from whom all the other Shaktis, except for the Jiva Shaktis, expand. And so anyway, all these energies are first-class servants, and so Krishna doesn't need anyone else. It's not that Krishna needs me to offer him some food, or Giriraj needs me to offer him some food, because in the spiritual world he has all these what cooking for him, according to the Brahma Samhita. Lakshmis. Lakshmi Sahasra Sata Sampramase Gumanam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajame. So he has all these Lakshmis cooking for him. So what does he need you to cook some quinoa for him? Yeah. Anyway, he likes quinoa. Sorry about that. He or daruka or whatever you make. Krishna doesn't need that. So therefore, he can act impartially. I have to act partially, just like when I go, let's say I go to the airport and I have to be nice to the lady who's selling the ticket. Of course, you don't buy tickets at the airport anymore, but, the gate agent, I have to smile. Of course, I want to, because I'm trying to be nice to people anyway. But you have to be nice to people. Even if you're frustrated, like sometimes the plane's delayed, you want to just go up to the gate agent and yell at them or something like that. Then you don't do that because you need them. You want to satisfy them. Or you're taking a test with your teacher, you have to be nice to your teacher, right? You have to butter them up, so to speak. So,
you ask them what's the answer to this question.
yeah.
Oh, no, that's
You have to say, you're such a nice teacher. Even though you think they're a lousy teacher. Anyway, so you have to just act in certain ways. And that's like politics. But politics is practical in this world. Like when you're distributing books, for example, the book distributors, they have to be a little political. Like Prabhupada said, before we distribute a book, we have to say, oh, you're so intelligent. You're such an intelligent person. Prabhupada said that, actually. And then ultimately you say, well, forget whatever you learned. Here's something interesting. Anyways, so I used to do that. So in other words, you have to act in ways that are sometimes a little political or deceptive, just being in the material world. Like if you have a boss, you may think the boss is the biggest jerk in the world, but you have to be nice to him. Krishna doesn't have those necessities. So he can just do whatever he wants with whoever he wants, independently, and nobody can complain about the whole thing. So therefore, Krishna is completely independent. So then why would Krishna favor the demigods over the demons? He doesn't. He doesn't. Because Krishna says, Yeyatamam prabhajante tam sataiva vajamiham. Mamavart manuvartante manushapartha sarvasha. I reciprocate, or as people approach me or reciprocate with me, less precise, meaning then I reciprocate with them in a similar fashion. So in other words, if someone approaches Krishna as his enemy, Krishna, okay, let's have that relationship then. Someone approaches Krishna as his parent, all right, let's have the relationship. I mean, even like Putana. Putana approached Krishna in a parental mode. And Krishna said, okay, I accept you as my parent. And of course, he punished her for the nastiness she had. But still, she was reciprocated with. Krishna didn't think, oh, she tried to kill me. Let me just send her to hell forever and ever and ever. So that's Krishna. So a devotee is similar. A devotee has no enemies either. A devotee is equal to everyone. Just like we hear about the qualities of a Brahmin. I mean, there's many verses like Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmaniga Vihastane Shunachaiva Swapakecha Panita Samadarshana. Learned and gentle Brahmin is equal to the dog eater, etc. And then also you have the quality of the Brahmin, Sama, Dhamma, Tapachocham. Brahmin is Sama. He's equipoised. Why is he equipoised? Because he sees Krishna behind everything. As Krishna says in the Gita, 6th chapter, text 30. Samoham sarvabhuteshu nametvaisho. No, that's not it. He says, what's the Sanskrit? It comes to mind. Yomam pashati sarvatra, sarvam chamayi pashati, tashaham na pranashami, sacha me na pranashati. You know the verse? For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, he is never lost to me, nor am I ever lost to him. That's the essence of Krishna consciousness. So someone who sees Krishna acting behind everyone else's acting, that means that person's not going to blame anyone or think anyone is his enemy. Or not think anyone is his friend in the sense that the person is responsible for giving him something. He thinks it's Krishna. Just like Dharma the bull. When Dharma the bull was being attacked by the personality of Kali, Dharma the bull didn't blame Kali, didn't consider Kali to be his enemy. He actually saw it was Krishna, and he didn't think Krishna was his enemy either. He saw it was Krishna, and then he understood it's Krishna acting. He's acting, why? Because it's the age of Kali, that's his plan. He's acting also to teach me this material. If something happens to us, we see Krishna is doing this to teach us something about life in the material world. Like if we have an enemy, someone who attacks us, then we see like that. So that's how a devotee is also equal poised to everyone. Just like Srila Prabhupada, he was equal poised. He didn't have any favorites. Sometimes we think so-and-so is the guru's favorite. Or you got more mercy. I wish I got as much mercy as you did. You hear that all the time. It's not true. Because the guru is also equal. Actually, one of the qualities of pure devotee is equality, but also ajata shatrava shanta sadava sadabhushana. He doesn't have any enemies. So in other words, we can project from that. He doesn't have anyone. Friends, considering on the material platform. Someone is my friend because he does something for me. Someone is my enemy because he's against me. So pure devotee is exactly like that too. So in other words, if you want the mercy of a pure devotee, getting to the point, because we only have 2 minutes left to class, till you all have to just go to school in your ties and jackets, or go to work. So the point is, if we want the mercy from the pure devotee, then it's up to us. The pure devotee, like we hear every morning, samsara dhamana loka, that the material world is on blazing fire, and the pure devotee is raining down the mercy of Krishna on all of us. So it's up to us. And how do you get the mercy of a pure devotee? Not simply by touching the feet, give me mercy. Of course that also helps. Like I said, when I used to walk behind Prabhupada, I would eat the dust in his footprints. Sand, actually the sand in his footprints, more than dust. So that helps, but really, Guru Mukha Padma Bhakya, we have to listen to the words. Like those who actually make more advancement have taken Srila Prabhupada's words and orders as life and soul, like Prabhupada did. How do we know Prabhupada is the most dear servant of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur? Because he took the words seriously, the words to preach in the Western world, more seriously than any of his godbrothers. That's how. Subjective. Everybody had the opportunity. Every single one of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disciples who spoke English had the same opportunity to do that. But Prabhupada did it in spite of all obstacles, having faith in the order of the spiritual master. Therefore, he got the mercy, or of course he always has mercy, but he got, let's say, the position of being the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and we know he's the most advanced devotee, of course, pure devotee. There may be other pure devotees, but the most advanced pure devotee amongst all of his godbrothers. The simple objective standard. Who is the best devotee? So anyway, so this is equality. Remember that. No one has a special relationship with the Guru in a deep spiritual sense. Everybody has an equal right to that relationship. Okay? So
You can go further. I think it's only Keshav and me have to go, Maharaj. So he'll just start having lunch, breakfast, and then we'll just go.
you have to eat. Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's not good to eat in the car. It's just,
He can have. Because most of the people are here for
Okay.
winter.
okay. Anyway, so that's the point. I try to keep it short because Keshav needs to hear this more than anybody else.
There's
It's
lots of
okay,
other
you can
people
listen
here.
to the recording.
Isha's still here.
So any questions? Because you told me 7:30, so I tried to speed it up. It was, well, too late now. So I already reached a conclusion. So you gotta,
Sorry.
I structure class according to the time I'm giving. I don't do open-ended classes that go on for 5 hours. Whatever time I'm given. So any questions or comments about this? Yes? No? Not good, you have a question? Okay. Contender.
Just a clarification.
Yeah.
Did you say before that the Adi Shakti is the origin of all energies?
All the
except-
energies,
except the
including,
Jiva?
except for the jiva, yeah.
And what's the origin of the Jiva? Krishna himself?
The origin of the jiva is Krishna. Mame Bangsa Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. We're not expansions of Radharani. At least I'm not. Krishna is part and parcel. Mame Bangsa Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. The Jiva Shakti is a manifestation from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Does that make sense? And then, of course, in the spiritual world, you have the Shaktis, who are expansions of Radharani, like the Astasakis. Saki means friend, Shakti means energy. So the Astasakis, they're actually direct expansions of Radharani. And then Radharani expands from there as the Radharani and her associates expand from there as the wives of Krishna and Dwarka. Like you have Satyabhama, who is like the primary expansion of Radharani and Dwarka. And then, of course, even Chandravali, she's an expansion of Radharani, too. And she expands as Rukmini in Dwarka. And then the other wives, that's described in the Rupa Goswami's book, the Lalita Madhava, Lalita Madhava, like who's an expansion of who in the Dwarka Leela. And then after the Dwarka Leela, then you have the other Vaikuntha planets. You have Lakshmi, who's expansion of ultimately of Radharani. And then you have all the different Lakshmis that are associates of the different incarnations or different avatars of the Lord. Like you have Lakshmi, Nrsimha, and each and every one of the expansions of the Lord have their consorts. For example, you have Kurma. I'm sure there's a Lakshmi expansion that goes along with Kurma. I don't know if it looks like a tortoise. She looks like a tortoise. Or what? I'm not sure. I don't have any information about that. So anyway, so you have the expansion. And then ultimately, you have all these Lakshmi, and whatever. It expands to Durga, the material world. And Durga, of course, has her expansions. And in a complementary way, you have Krishna and his expansions. Krishna in Vrindavan, and then Krishna in Dwarka and Mathura. And then you have Krishna as Narayan and all the various incarnations. And then Krishna expands through the glance of the Mahavishnu as Shambhu, or Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva is an expansion of Krishna, not Vishnu Tattva, of course. He's in a special category. He's like Shiva Tattva, for lack of a better word. And then Lord Shiva has all the expansions too, like the Rudra expansions, 11 Rudras. And they get married to 11 Rudranis. There's an interesting story in the Bhagavatam. They actually appeared when Lord Brahma was very angry at the 4 Kumaras for refusing to get married. And then they got married, they got angry, and these 11 Rudras, they were getting ready to destroy the universe in order to pacify them. The Rudranis came. That means they had to get married to make them peaceful. Like sometimes you'll see a brahmachari who's very agitated. You think, Prabhu, you need to get married. So you have your wife can control you. Anyway, so any other questions or comments? Yes.
Maharaj, you quoted that verse from Bhagavad Gita.
Which verse?
Your mom Pashati
Saradra,
Yeah.
Saram Jamai Pashati.
Um,
6:30.
yeah. So you were saying that a devotee always sees Krishna in everything.
And sees Krishna everywhere. Yeah.
So it's easier to do that when something good or bad happens.
Yes.
Then you can say that Krishna is behind this. So,
Yes.
Krishna blessed me with something good, or if
Yeah,
something
yeah.
bad happens, Krishna arranged for that. to
Right.
happen.
Right.
When it seems like I hear this question quite often. Devotees do service for many years, and they often ask, I've done so much for Krishna, but it doesn't really seem like I've gotten, it doesn't seem like Krishna is reciprocating with me that much.
Yeah, because they're not reciprocating with Krishna. They've done so much externally. But if you actually, devotional service is executed with the subtle body. In other words, you have to give yourself to Krishna. And also we have this injunction with Utsahan Nishya Darya Tatat Karma Pravartana. One has to be enthusiastic, and that's also internal. Not simply that you're passionate. Enthusiasm and passion are not the same thing. Patient and determined. One has to have faith. Because if you're demanding that Krishna has to reciprocate with you in some specific fashion, or else you're going to get angry with him or, not believe in him, that indicates a lack of faith. So you're not really reciprocating with Krishna. Because you're doing things in Krishna consciousness in a ritualistic way, niyamagraha. And so what do you expect? And one has to be patient. I mean, look at the story of Mukunda and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was, at one particular point, he wasn't allowed to come in to see Lord Chaitanya because he had bad association. You know the story? And then he asked, when can I see Lord Chaitanya again? And Lord Chaitanya replied, many, many, many lifetimes, like 1,000 lifetimes or something like that. And he got happy because he understood he would be able to have the association again. So that's love. If you love someone, you're not going to demand something from them, isn't it? That's why, Prabhupada said generally we shouldn't be asking Krishna for anything except for more service. Like the gopis were told, he said, Krishna said, there's nothing I can give you in response or reciprocation for your service, but your own service. You have to be satisfied with that. But if you love, then you're doing something, you don't need any reciprocation, basically. The love itself is actually the reciprocation. You understand? What else are you expecting from Krishna? You never hear Prabhupada say anything like that. Krishna, I've been serving you all these years, and you gave me a heart attack on the boat coming over. What kind of God are you? And also Krishna puts his devotees in difficult circumstances to help them advance more in devotional service. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. So anyway, yes, I hear that quite a bit. I've never thought like that. My whole life I've never thought, I just serve Krishna. It's getting on 50 years now, 50 years, oh my God. 50 years of the Hare Krishna movement. Almost, not quite. Well, my 50th anniversary soon. And I never think like that. I just think I'm so fortunate to be able to serve in whatever capacity. I'm so fortunate to be able to. See, people don't understand how fortunate they are. Because, out of many, Manushanam Sahasreshu Kaschid Yatati Siddhaya, out of many thousands of people, perhaps one is looking for self-realization out of many thousands of those or millions of those. Perhaps one actually knows about Krishna. I mean, we're so fortunate. And that person who's saying like that is not understanding their great fortune. I mean, they're expecting to be reciprocated with by getting ecstatic or something like that, or being detached from the body, or having more prasadam or something like that. Or having the devotees treat them. I mean, what sort of reciprocation do they require? The only reciprocation we should want is more service and Krishna's pleasure, of course. And like Radharani says in the last chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, if my unhappiness gives Krishna happiness, then my unhappiness is my happiness. Basically, in the last chapter, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Actually, we're speaking a lot from that last chapter because it was Radharani's appearance day recently. And I was in Suba, so I was speaking a lot from that, the last chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where the Shikshashika is spoken by Lord Chaitanya and translated by Srila Prabhupada in the mood of Srimati Radharani speaking. So, yeah, it's a service. I mean, if I can somehow or other always be engaged in Krishna's service, that's perfection. I don't want anything else. I mean, of course, I want my mind to be fixed on Krishna and fixed on service, and be able to serve Krishna internally and externally. But, mama janmani janmanishvare bhavatad bhakti hoitaki tvaye. What does Lord Chaitanya pray for? Nadanam najanam nasundarim kavitam bhaj jagadichikamaya. Mama janmani janmanishvare bhavatad bhakti hoitaki tvaye. We're boring the children. So, you understand? The adults, some of them, maybe they understand what I'm saying. That, I don't want anything. I don't want wealth or attractive people, whatever. Don't want ugly people either. So anyways, it's like sometimes a person is looking for a wife, and he looks at her picture on Facebook and says, no way. No way. I want someone who looks like a Bollywood actress. So anyway, better to want someone who knows how to cook. It's more practical. It's more practical. Because like the gopis say, that this beauty is very fleeting, Actually, this is what Gopi said to Krishna. Anyway, so that's funny. So devotees thinking, I don't want any of these things. All I want is your service life after life. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur prays, Kita janmohoyata tu yadas. I will even take birth as an insect or a worm in the house of your devotee. I just want to be in the house associated with the devotees. I mean, look at the desires of the pure devotees. They're not saying, Krishna, why aren't you reciprocating with me? When did Prabhupada ever say such a thing like that? And then, once you have that attitude, Krishna, then you get everything. But if you don't have that attitude, if there's some expectation that Krishna has to do something, all right. It's like if someone tells me you have to do something, I won't do it just because they tell me I have to do it. So Krishna is a rebellious teenager. So you tell Krishna you have to do it. I've been serving you all these years, and what did I get? Old age? I think like that too. I don't think like that, but I could think like that. I could think like that. Krishna, it's 50 years now. What do I have? I'm still just driving around a Prius instead of a Tesla?
Who wants a Tesla? Ghana? Only Ghana wants a Tesla.
I don't.
Then why did you mention it yesterday?
I mentioned it. He got it from me.
Oh.
Because I use that as an example all the time. What is this, I see so many of the gurus with their Mercedes. And me, I only have a Tesla. Anyways, I'm not a Tesla, I'm a Prius, sorry. So, who cares? as long as I can get someplace to serve Krishna, isn't it? It's better. I mean, what's a sannyasi driving a Tesla for anyway? People will criticize, right? Like Lord Chaitanya, he told Sanatana Goswami he had a nice chadar. He said, get rid of the thing. And he traded it in for like a quilt, a patchwork quilt from some Muslim. And Lord Chaitanya was pleased. So, so anyway. So what do we want? We just want to serve some way or other. I mean, I'm happy if I have service, I can engage my mind in service according to my psychophysical nature. I'm very happy. If I don't have service, it's very hard. Have a good time. Are you playing tennis?
Yes, I play tennis for school.
Well, I have to play with you sometime.
There's a tennis court down the road there.
Oh, that's nice. Oh.
Do you want to play much?
There's a tennis court down the road.
No, I'm afraid I'll throw out my arm at my age. It's a little, when you're 69, it's a little risky to do that. All right, so have a good time. So, any other questions? Then we should end now, because I got to do my puja for the deities. We got a lot of people watching. All glories to divine grace. We see Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Here's our group. We are in Sydney at Naveen and Angshu's house, and Keshav and Isha's house. Keshav was the young, handsome man with a tie. And I told them that's better than wearing a dhoti because you look more respectable. Actually, the first time Prabhupada brought a devotee to India, he didn't have him wear a dhoti. He wore a tie and a jacket in hot Delhi in the middle of the summer. I mean, that was pretty interesting because Prabhupada wanted people to be impressed. So here is a respectable American gentleman who's joined the Hare Krishna movement. So, it's not, we have nothing against ties and jackets. Actually, you know where ties came from? Because people used to be very sloppy when they were, and so the tie was actually like a tissue or that they hung from here and they just wiped their mouths as they were eating their sloppy meat. Yuck. And then that later on became like a bow tie, and later on became cravat. You know what a cravat is? You know what a cravat is? That's a fancy thing, that rich people. And then after that it became the regular, Western tie, which everyone uses nowadays. Okay. All glories to His divine grace. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ajay Govinda, it's good to see you. Uddhava Sachi Mata. Wow. Arjuna. And we got a lot of devotees here. Wow, from all over the world. All glories to Prabhupada from Sydney, Australia.